Today, we are very honored and privileged to welcome Ambassador Dr. Deepak Vohra. Ambassador Vohra is a special advisor to the Prime Minister, Lesotho, South Sudan, and Guinea-Bissau, and to Ladakh Autonomous Hill Development Councils, Kargil and Leh. Born in 1951, Deepak Vohra from the Indian Foreign Service class of 1973 was India's senior-most ambassador and has been described as one of the finest minds in the world. He has studied at the most prestigious universities in India and overseas, including St. Stephen's College, National Defense College, and Sorbonne University, Paris. His academic record is outstanding. First in school, first in college, first among the men in Indian Foreign Service, first in the training program at Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, and first at the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. He taught at St. Stephen's College, Delhi University, from 1972 to 73. Among India's most loved television figures, he was shortlisted by Women's Magazine as one of the most sensational personalities in India. He has also acted in commercial films. He has served in France, Vietnam, Tunisia, United States, Nigeria, Cameroon, Benin, Chad, Malaysia, Papua New Guinea, and Spain as ambassador of India to Armenia, Georgia, Sudan, South Sudan, Poland, and Lithuania. He was officer on special duty to the technology advisor to the Prime Minister of India. Ambassador Vohra spent 4 years with Sulabh International, the world's largest NGO dealing with sanitation, and is the author of best-selling books. He has specialized in National Renaissance for Nations. In October 2005, Armenia awarded him a gold medal and named a school after him. Sudan gave him its highest civilian award, and in 2006, he was made Prince of an African tribe. He has vast international experience, having represented India at several conferences. Not many know that when Indian oil workers were kidnapped in Sudan in 2007, Ambassador Vohra offered himself in exchange for the hostages. In 2014, he went to a remote Ebola-affected area of Guinea to help the villagers despite the danger to his own life. National and international leaders who have interacted with him uniformly have commented on his transparent sincerity and integrity. Surprised at his candor, some advise him to hide from the storm. He replies calmly, "I am the storm." He is an advisor and mentor to universities and companies in India and lectures regularly to national and international audiences on global megatrends and trust. Over 10 million have heard him so far. His insights are much appreciated. He also speaks about Kashmir. The journey resumes. He has been an advisor to the government of South Sudan from July 2011. In April 2013, Ambassador Vohra was appointed Special Advisor to the Prime Minister, Republic of Guinea-Bissau. In April 2014, he was named Special Advisor by the Prime Minister, Kingdom of Lesotho. In 2015 and 16, he was appointed Special Advisor to the Autonomous Hill Development Councils in the remote Ladakh region of India. Ambassador Vohra speaks French, Spanish, Vietnamese, Arabic, Bahasa Melayu, Hausa, Motu, and Armenian fluently. Today, Sir will talk about fighting the Chinese virus, India's most powerful weapon. His presentation will continue for about 25 to 30 minutes, and then the session is open for interaction. With this, I'm honored to welcome Ambassador Dr. Deepak Vohra. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. That was a very kind and long introduction. I deny all the allegations. You did mention that I acted in commercial films. That's true. I acted in 2, and both were super flops. Now, for the next 25 minutes or so, we are going to rush through a PowerPoint presentation on how India is able to tackle the Chinese virus so effectively, winning the admiration and appreciation of the entire world. So if you are ready, may I begin with the slideshow then? Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go. Okay.
Yes.
Here we are. Okay. Now, what happened to this? Why is it hanging? Yeah. Okay, now take a look at these figures. Oh boy, I can barely see, can I minimize the screen where I'm seeing myself, I'm visible? Is it possible if I hit the X on top, will I leave the meeting or I'll still stay there?
Yeah, no, if you hit the X, you'll leave the meeting. Maybe you can turn off
Okay.
your video so that
Turn off my video, then I don't see myself.
yeah.
Anyway, okay.
Or maybe
Let
you
me
can,
see how.
sir, there is an option at the top, hide everyone, or you can see who is talking, active cameras, or
And
hide
where
everyone.
is that option? Let me see.
Just at
Where
the
is
top,
that option?
just above the video, there is an option, hide.
Above the video, let me see. All right. Can you see me now? Can you see me?
Yes, yes, you can see.
All right. Can you see the entire
Yes,
screen?
yes,
Yes.
All right. So then,
yes.
sons and daughters of India, first of all, I'm deeply honored and delighted to have this opportunity to interact with you. Take a look at the latest figures. These were yesterday's. I haven't updated for today. This is the number of people who died from the Chinese virus per million population. Take a look. The world is 36 per million in the world. Belgium, 746, Spain, 563, etc. Just take a look at these figures. It's on your screen. USA is 236, Switzerland 214. Iran is 80. China's figures are bogus. Don't trust them at all. They tell lies through their teeth. And India's figure is 1.5. Pakistan says it's 3, but that's also not correct. Now, how is it that we have such a low figure? How are we able to deal with this? These are 4 basic questions that I'm going to ask you. Why is our response so effective? How are we able to help 123 countries, including the richest? Look, whether you like Donald Trump or hate him, he says we will not forget India's help. 4, when over 100 countries have begged the IMF, the World Bank, and donors for bailouts, why hasn't India? Why have we offered financial support to others? And then right now, even as we speak, how come we are running the world's largest peacetime evacuation program called Vande Bharat, bringing home our children stranded overseas, UAE, Saudi Arabia, US, wherever. In the past, we had brought home people from Lebanon, Syria, and so on. Now we are doing the largest exercise. How come? So what is our hidden weapon? What is this very powerful weapon driven by our people? I believe this weapon is self-confidence, it's self-belief, it comes from optimism, resilience, and it is compassion. It comes from our heritage. You know, Chanakya, the great Indian thinker, had said, in sickness, friends stand by you. India has shown the world that we are their friends. Look, my journey in this life, I was made in India in 1951, is probably coterminous with India's independence. I was made in India 4 years after independence, and I have been through a journey which I'd like to share with you. When I was made in 1951, India had, listen to these figures, 92% of Indians lived in overwhelming poverty. Only 10 out of 100 Indians had ever been educated. Less than 1% of our daughters, our wives, our mothers were in the workforce. And our overwhelming philosophy was fatalism, was self-doubt. We had no self-confidence. Ye to hamari kismat hai, ye to hona hi tha. Whenever we faced a crisis, sons and daughters of India, we rushed off to the foreigner to help us. Now, by the time I die, by the time I leave my body, I know India would have eliminated poverty. India would have eliminated illiteracy. Gender equality would have moved far ahead, and we'll see now, and we would have become very, very self-confident, for I have seen the journey. I'm an observer analyst. I observe and I see. Look, the first few years after our independence, perhaps the first 50 years, were years when our self-esteem was very, very low. You know, we had low growth. People talked about the Hindu rate of growth, 1%, 2%, all that kind of nonsense. We had massive inflation. We didn't have foreign exchange. When I went on my first assignment to Paris in 1975, I was allowed to take $8 with me. We had insurgencies in the Northeast. You know it all. With trouble in Kashmir, Punjab, with Naxalism, Maoism, you know it all. Basically, I believe 60s, 70s, and 80s are our lost decades. We had currency devaluation, we had political instability, we had violence between communities, then we had the oil shock, and we had wars in 62, 65, 71, and 99. Brain drain. Do you remember? The best and brightest of our brains went overseas, not because they were persecuted in India politically, they wanted to be economic refugees. Agricultural collapse. 1966-67. Sons and daughters of India, we survived on imported food. Mrs. Gandhi went to beg the Americans. We got 9 and 11 million tons of American wheat in 1966, 1967. An American newspaper wrote, India's leader comes begging. And 2 American scholars wrote a book, Famine 75. The book was written in 1967. It suggested to the American government, abandon India. It's a hopeless case. Giving them food is like throwing sand in the ocean. We were living from ship to mouth, not from hand to mouth. And we said that we are not going to eat on Mondays. Sons and daughters of India, I have slept hungry on Mondays throughout 1966. Ask me what hunger is, I'll tell you what it is. And today, that country which once begged for food is the 2nd largest producer of food grains in the world. You know, in 1991, when we had this foreign exchange crisis, we asked our great friends, the Swiss and the Brits and the IMF and everybody, lend us some money. They said, we don't trust your economy, mortgage your gold. I remember that we had to send 150 tons of our gold to the Bank of England and the Bank of Switzerland. And then they gave us $600 million as a loan. Today, that country that had less than $1 billion of foreign exchange in 1991, less than $1 billion, billion has 9 zeros. Today, we are sitting on 500 billion. And when we were carrying our gold to these countries, I went into the office of my boss, Sam Pitroda, in the Prime Minister's office. I sobbed like a child. When I said, Sam, is this the country I'm working for? He said, Deepak, this too will pass. Then came the renaissance of our spirit. Look, 1970s was when the Green Revolution came, food self-sufficiency. 1971, we had in fits and start the Bangladesh victory. By the 1990s, our IT prowess was beginning to be recognized globally. I recall sitting at the lounge in Munich airport, and there was a German fighting with his laptop. He was abusing because it wasn't working. So he looked at me and he said, where are you from? I speak German. So he said, where are you from? I said, I'm India. I'm from India. So he didn't repair my laptop. I said, hey, happy birthday. I mean, I have no idea how to repair your laptop. He says, you're Indian. You should know. Well, with a prayer on my lips, I rebooted his thing. It started working. I gave it back to him. And he said, you see, I told you, you guys are brilliant. But thank you very much. 1998, we first carried out the nuclear test. We became a declared nuclear power. 1999, sons and daughters of India, ladies and gentlemen, we started launching foreign satellites. The last IMF loan we took was in 1999. And do you know something? In 1999, during the Kargil war, I was there. The world was stunned, amazed by our fight back. This self-confidence is reflected. It may not register on you normally, but I'm an observer analyst. We started winning gold medals in the Olympics in non-hockey, in other areas. We haven't reached anywhere near our potential, but it's tough. Earlier, it was only hockey, hockey, hockey for so many years. Indian companies began acquiring overseas assets in the 2000s. Tata Jaguar 2008, Airtel Zen deal in 2010. The proudest moment in my life when we took over Jaguar. It's now an Indian company, Jaguar Land Rover. 2003, we were tired of these tiny countries, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, giving us lectures on human rights after the Gujarat riots and on nuclear non-proliferation. We told them, go back, we don't need your money. Denmark is a case in point. 20 million or something they used to give us, and then come and give us long lectures on nuclear non-proliferation. I say, I don't have the time to listen to that. And then, of course, we were accused when we said we won't take any more foreign assistance of destroying the international aid industry. 2004, the natural disasters, beginning with the tsunami. Happy birthday, but thank you, no thank you. We'll deal with it ourselves. Do you know 2008, Chandrayaan, the Indian moon probe, first confirmed water on the moon. 2014, we start giving more assistance than we received. 2017, world record, 104 satellites from a single rocket. So what's the big deal, you'll ask? How do you prevent 104 satellites from colliding with each other? Only the Indian scientists could do this. 2015, 2020, energy independence. Already 1/3 of India's energy mix is renewable energy. We pioneered the International Solar Alliance, etc., etc. We've taken the lead in other global efforts. And your poor, starving country, India, 2019, last year, ladies and gentlemen, offers $1 billion loan, $1 billion soft loan to big and powerful Russia. This is a milestone that will be written about in 10 years when somebody writes the history of modern India. I mean, we missed the first 3 industrial revolutions, 18th century, 19th century, early part of the 20th century because we were a colony. But the 4th industrial revolution, the AI, artificial or augmented intelligence or engineered intelligence revolution, we are not going to miss. We are the best. So the United Nations opens the 4th center for the 4th industrial revolution after US, Japan, and China opens in India. Where is Europe in all this gone to the toilet? Look, from 2014 to 19, Swachh Bharat eliminated open defecation. Ayushman Bharat is the world's largest state-sponsored health insurance. This is the renaissance of the Indian spirit. So where does our confidence come from today? Let me tell you where it comes from. These are the 5 areas: demographics, education, economics, hard power, and resilience. The median age in India is 28. Half of India is less than 28, like me, and half of India, like you, Asmita, is more than 28. We are already the world's youngest country with the largest producing cohort. We describe ourselves in the producing age group when you are between 15 and 64. Less than 15, you consume more than you produce. More than 64, you consume more than you produce. So between 15 and 64, ladies and gentlemen, I have 1 billion people in the producing age group for the first time in human history. Who can stop us? Education is the second thing. By the way, let me tell you, the median age in Europe is 44. The Pope described Europe as an elderly and haggard continent. I didn't say this, the Pope did. And my teacher at the Sorbonne, Alfred Sauvy, used to say, Europe will be an old continent, old people living old homes, discussing old ideas. How true. Education, 50,000 colleges and universities. When I was made in India in 1951, we had 500. I have 1.5 million schools. I have 34 crore students. 52% are our daughters. Wait for these girls to join the workforce, then tell me about gender empowerment. What does Bill Gates say to the Prime Minister? Writes him a letter saying, we admire India's exceptional digital capability. Be proud of the fact that our strength is now being recognized. This relentless focus on education. Economic power, take a look at this. We are already the world's 3rd largest economy in purchasing power parity terms. 12 trillion. Trillion has 12 zero. First, of course, is China, 22, 23. Then the USA, 9 or 21. And then India at 12. Japan is at 6. 3 of the top 4 are in Asia. We are the 3rd largest in PPP terms. 330 million people, 33 crore online buyers, we estimate in 2020. And our private wealth is $8.2 trillion. Trillion has 12 zeros. 8.2 trillion is India's privately held wealth. That's all the money you keep in your lockers or bury it in the ground on which you don't pay tax, and all the gold you wear in your bodies and whatever private wealth. And according to the new World Wealth Report, in 8 years, by 2028, the average Indian will have twice as much private wealth as the average Briton or the average German citizen. These are not my figures. IMF, World Bank, UN, World Wealth Report, etc., etc. Then comes the question of where are we spending this money? Well, let me tell you where we spent it last year. Number one, looking better. We all do that. We all want to look better. I'm sorry, my hair's grown. I can't look better because that wretched fellow, my barber, his shop is closed for the last 40 days. I got into films based on my devastating good looks, but then I flopped. Then there is this thing about our where we spend our money. Number one, we're spending looking better. We have 650,000, 6.5 lakhs villages, towns, and cities in India. And you know, we have 1.5 crore beauty parlors. 6.5 lakh हमारे पास गांव और शहर हैं और 1.5 crore beauty parlors. Second, we are spending money on eating better. Zomato, Tomato, Swiggy, Piggy, Domino's, Mr. McDonald, whatever, but all these characters here may not be eating better, but we are ordering in. Third, where we're spending our money is on feeling better, on health. Did you realize how health conscious we've become? We're all doing yoga, we're all going to gymnasiums, we're all going to spas. See the people in your own town, wherever you are, who are so interested in exercise. Every village has a gymnasium with names like Rambo, Shah Rukh Khan, Salman Khan, I mean, all Jackie Shroff or whatever, Tiger Shroff. I've seen gymnasiums with these names. Then, of course, we are communicating better. 1.6 billion mobile connections and 1 billion smartphones. Most in any country, the most in any country. We've overtaken China in terms of mobile connections, 1.6 billion. Then, of course, we are traveling better and we are living better. Military rebalancing taking place, the most powerful military in the world, not my figures. Global Firepower Index says that the most powerful military, USA, they spend more than the other 20 countries combined, the next 20 countries. Second most powerful, Russia. Third comes China. And right behind China is a country you've heard of, India. And the fifth element, ladies and gentlemen, sons and daughters of India, is our resilience. We have triumphed over every adversity, whether it was food shortage, foreign exchange shortage, whether it was sanctions imposed on us by all these bloody little fellows telling us that we won't give you any money and we won't allow IMF, World Bank to give you loans, etc. We've overcome all that. Yeah, take a look at some of these cartoons, not mine, from The Economist a few years ago, 7 years ago. Dr. Manmohan Singh and Srimati Indira Gandhi sitting there like king and queen, emperor and empress, and the British Prime Minister David Cameron bowing before them saying, give me some money, my country has no money. Yeah, I thought we were looking for German investment. This is the Bavaria state of Germany advertises in India. They want Indian money in their state. Happy birthday. Yeah, this is a British property agent advertising in India today, 5 years ago, for property in the very heart of London. India buying property in England. I'm sure Mr. Malaiwala or Malaya, whatever his name is, he may have bought something here. Look, well beyond 2020, the world will remember that China has given an example of its power to hurt, and India has shown the example of its power, the power of its example to heal. Here's a book that I want you to see. This book is by my colleague Elisa Ayres. She is an American diplomat. The title of the book is Our Time Has Come, published 2 years ago, Council on Foreign Relations, New York. And she says this is about how India is making its place in the world. We didn't bribe her to write this book. And I can tell you this book is a huge bestseller in Pakistan. What is then the result of these tectonic changes? Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. 15% of the world's population that ruled the other 85% for 200 years. The world is turning on its head. Inko nazar aa raha hai, but they don't accept it. They are losing prosperity, strength, influence, but their arrogance is intact. You know, 2002, I'm sitting in the Spanish parliament. I listened to the Spanish prime minister say, it is my country's destiny to be a donor nation. We are destined to give money to others. 10 years later, the then prime minister goes to the IMF and begs for a bailout. Begs the IMF, please help me, we have no money. And after getting the bailout, he doesn't say Spain has been saved. Look at the arrogance. He says the future has been saved, European Union has been saved, etc. And these fellows used to give us lectures on our relationship with Pakistan. January 2001, Bhuj earthquake. I was in the Canary Islands in Spain, where a local radio station came to see me. This was in January 2001. Said, have you come to the islands to look for assistance from Spain for the earthquake? I said, no. Next question, why have you come? Said, I've come here to spend money and help your economy. She went away. Look at the debates in the British Parliament, 2012, when we said we don't want your money. They got very angry. We said your aid is peanuts. And they said, you dare not say this because we will give you aid whether you want it or not. We said, well, good luck to you. Depression, demoralization, loneliness is growing in the old world. You know the #1 disease in the Western countries, the developed world, is depression. Whereas India is bubbling with self-confidence. The UK has a minister for loneliness. They should have one for self-delusion. And they tell us that they have 9 million British citizens, 9 million, just under a crore, who feel lonely. Many of them are old, rich widows. I said, look, I'll be happy to give them company. They said, no, we don't want you. But they should have somebody for self-delusion. Ladies and gentlemen, sons and daughters of India, never, never, never again. For too long have others written our destiny. Now we will write it ourselves. A country that forgets its past has no future. We have not forgotten. We remember. We made mistakes, but never, never, never again. And all of you fellow citizens, sons and daughters of India, ladies and gentlemen, you and your families make this commitment that now we will write our own future. No one else will write it for us, because now India will determine its own destiny. What is India's rising global profile? I think you know all this, and there's nothing that I want to tell you about it. We have the whole thing about, let me see where I've got my note. The first thing was the International Day of Yoga. I'm sure you're all aware of this. 2015, the International Day of Yoga, when we introduced it in the UN, 177 out of 193 nations co-sponsored the resolution, the largest in the history of the United Nations. And you know, I heard a European ambassador to the UN saying, my country supports yoga because India is the spiritual mother of all mankind. That was splashed all over our media. But when we say Hum Vishwa Guru hain, then you say, oh, you are saffronizing India. When a Videshi says it, we are very, very thrilled. We didn't have to vote on this resolution. So many people co-sponsored it. Do you remember the evacuation from Yemen in 2015? There were people from 42 countries trapped there, several thousand. Yemenis said, come and take away your citizens, but only the Indian military can come. Not the British, French, Germans, Americans, Russians, Chinese, whoever. We don't trust them. They said, we trust the Indians. We went in and we brought out several thousand people. I was in Paris for the founding of the International Solar Alliance the same year in November. The young French immigration officer at Charles de Gaulle Airport looks at my passport, says, Ambassador of India. I said, yes. He said, you brought 500 of my compatriots out of Yemen. I said, son, if we made a mistake, we'll take them back. He smiled, I smiled. He gets up, he salutes, and he says, thank you, India. He salutes and says, thank you, India. Remember, have you heard of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, founded in 1969 in Rabat, Morocco? We were invited to the founding conference. When we got there, they said, sorry guys, you can't come in. We were humiliated and asked to leave. We left. We didn't have the strength. 50 years later, at their 50th conference, they have a guest of honor, and that guest of honor is India. If you ever get a chance to visit New York, please, I appeal to you, go see the UN headquarters. On top of the headquarters on the roof are 193 solar panels, one panel for each country, gifted by India. And the UN headquarters now gets solar energy from India. When we launched the International Solar Alliance, we made a pledge that in 7 years, we'll produce 20 gigawatts of solar energy. Gigawatt has 1 billion watts. Many people laughed. I had an Indian television channel, since I was there as special advisor, saying, ha, do you believe you can do it? So well, let's give it our best shot. Boys and girls, we did it 4 years ahead of schedule. I called that channel. I said, you wish to take another bite from me? They said, no, sir, we are not feeling well. And this is these are what we call dukhi atmas, perpetual whiners who doubt the enormous capability of India. We've already made a promise that by 2022, we will produce 175 gigawatts of renewable energy, which includes 100 gigawatts of solar. Our target is 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, we will do it next year. That is our promise to the Prime Minister. Look at how they see our future. Deloitte, have you heard of Deloitte? This company carried out an attitude survey of millennials born after 1985 and post-millennials, what we call the disrupted generation, born after 1995. 42 countries, and they showed India is the young Indians, most optimistic and positive. Yes, they want a house. Yes, they want money. Yes, they want a car. Yes, they want an education. Yes, they want a wonderful spouse. But more than anything else, they want to make an impact on society. We laugh at our children saying, you don't have our values. I believe they have better values than we do. Goldman Sachs, you heard of Goldman Sachs? Says India's story will be shaped by its 45 crore citizens born after 1995. This is Gen Z. And it says the sheer size of India's youth, combined with their new purchasing power, their improved education, this will make India's story one of the most compelling in the next 20 years. I didn't say this. Goldman Sachs said it. And if you think that we are not positive, here is the EDELMAN Optimism Barometer of 2020. The percentage of people in 25 countries who think their lives will improve in the next 5 years. Japan only 15%, Australia 32%, Italy 29%, China 69%, UAE 75%, and India, USA 42%, India 77%. Sons and daughters of India, excessive pessimism does not empower us. It paralyzes us. It makes us feel helpless and hopeless. This is the EDELMAN Trust Barometer 2020. People who trust in government, NGOs, business, etc. In India, at 79%, Russia 30%, and better off in 25, you've already seen. What does he see in India? Can you please tell me, why does Barack Obama come 3 times to India? Because he doesn't have a girlfriend here, at least we don't know about it. But he comes here and he goes back and tells American kids, I have seen billions of kids in Bangalore, he talks about India, billions, working every day to out-educate and out-compete you. He tells them to wake up. Otherwise, Indian kids, people like you, we will be the best in the world. Look, this is the resurgent Indian spirit. I know this for a fact. 1999, Kargil War. 1999. This kid from Bihar came to register for the Indian Army. People who were recruiting there very politely said, son, you are not eligible because you are handicapped. Both his legs were cut off below the knees in a train accident. This kid pulls himself up on his crutches and says, gentlemen, I have come to fight the enemy, not to run away from him. Look at the spirit. I was there when this happened. I know what the reality of India's spirit. Take a look. This is a picture of this young boy when the massive earthquake occurred in Sikkim in September 2011. This boy, you can see how he's perched precariously wearing only a helmet. He's drilling a hole, he'll put dynamite, he'll blast it, the mountain will recede, he'll build a road. We had 300 landslides. The road from Gangtok to Siliguri, Gangtok, the capital of Sikkim, to Siliguri in West Bengal was broken in 300 places. We had to repair it as quickly as possible. I couldn't keep supplying the people in Sikkim by helicopter. So I was there with my Doordarshan team. We were filming the relief and rehabilitation. And the Prime Minister at that time said, ask the best companies in the world. Many of them are Austrians because that country has very mountainous terrain. So they are very good in mountain roads. They told us it'll take 6 weeks. We couldn't wait 6 weeks. Prime Minister said, ask the Indian border roads. We asked them, their Director General responded. And as I sit before you, this is the gospel truth. He said, we'll assess the situation and come back to you. 20 hours later, he called to say the road is open. Who else can do it but Indians? Let me also tell you that this kid who was so precariously perched, there were others like him. They died. We lost about, I think, 12 or 15 kids from border roads. I went to one Sikkimese home since I was spending a week there. I met the mother, 55-year-old Sikkimese lady. Her 25, 26-year-old son, working for border roads, had died while opening the road. I said to her, I said, sister, I'm very sorry. I've come to your house at a time when you've just lost a child. And she tells me, she says, brother, you know, yes, I know. And she says, I know that I'll get compensation from the government of India, government of Sikkim, Indian Army, border road. I wrote her a personal check. She said, just do me a favor, your special advisor, get my younger kid a job. He's 22. I said, sure, I have friends in Delhi. I'll speak to them. Actual conversation. I'll speak to my friends who own big companies. We'll get him a job. She said, my eldest son died for India. Get my younger child a job in the army or the border roads. Don't deprive him of the opportunity to sacrifice himself for India when the need arises. Who else can say it but a mother of India? And as the water rushed into my eyes, I still remember distinctly, I held her hands and I said to her, Ma, tujhe salam. I said to her, if I'm ever born in India again, I'd like to be born from the womb of a woman like you. You know, at that moment, ladies and gentlemen, I got an answer to a question that had bothered me from my childhood. Why are we Indians? Then I got the answer. We are not Indians because we live in India or were born in India. We are Indians because India lives in us. This convergence is taking place for the first time in human history. 1/4 of our population, 340 million, schools and colleges, enthusiastic, tech-savvy, gung-ho. Prime Minister says when a kid is born in India, he or she has an iPad in his or her hand. 2/3 of our population, producing age group, fastest elimination of poverty in human history, 1 Indian per second. And there's no longer fatalism, hamari to kismat hai. Now there's an explosion of self-confidence, self-esteem. Of course we can do it. We built 1 toilet every 2 seconds. We open 2 bank accounts every second. We are building 1 kilometer of highway every 15 minutes. This is the strength of India. I don't know if you are an economist, any of you, there is this law of unintended consequences. You take a certain action today, it could have unforeseen consequences tomorrow. What would have happened to our lockdown? And this is the unforeseen consequences. If 60% of India's population was still going to the fields, the rivers, the lakes in the morning for their whatever they do in the morning, we all do in the morning. Would the lockdown have worked if 60% of our population was going to the fields? We didn't have toilets. Fortunately, today everybody has a toilet. But when we launched Swachh Bharat, we had no idea that the Chinese were going to unleash their virus on us. What if we were a nation of illiterate, superstitious, uneducated old people? What if we were not food self-sufficient? You know, there have been food riots in Africa. You can expect food riots again in some Asian countries which are food insecure. We are sitting on 60 million tons of food grains in our warehouses, enough to feed India, and not one Indian has died of hunger during this lockdown period. What if we did not have Ayushman Bharat, the world's largest government-sponsored health scheme? What if we did not, every poor family did not have a bank account? Rajiv Gandhi famously said that every rupee we wish to spend on development, of that rupee only 15 paise reaches the poorest. Today, with direct benefit transfer, we are able to make sure that it reaches everybody. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the unintended consequences of certain actions that have been taken. Regional geopolitics is changing. Look, we have shown the world that along with the softness of silk, we have the strength of steel. You know, sometimes we don't listen to what our leaders are saying. Listen to, look, whether you like Narendra Modi or not is irrelevant. Listen to what he's saying. During the elections in Gujarat, in Patan, he said in a conference that I am not in the habit of forgetting. Main chun chun ke hisab lunga. And he said, you can hide in the seventh hell. सातवें पाताल में छुप जाओ, वहां से निकाल के लाऊंगा. और अगर भारत को तंग करोगे, आपके घर में घुस के मारूंगा. We proved that. I mean, the world was stunned with the ferocity of our response. The Pakistanis were completely disoriented. Malaysia, there's octogenarian or nano, whatever you call it, fellows over 90, was 95, made some statements. I've served in Malaysia about Kashmir. We decided not to buy palm oil from them. Their economy collapsed. Their prime minister, the fellow who made all these remarks, lost his job. And last month, in April of 2020, our imports of Malaysian palm oil were only 3% of what they were a year earlier. Therefore, dealing with the Chinese virus, what are the megatrends? We are seeing much greater trust in governments that handle the virus decisively, with transparency like we do in India, Singapore, South Korea. And there is less trust in countries that are hiding or floundering, China, US, Italy, etc. We have so much of respect for our health workers, our scientists, our doctors, our law enforcement people. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I had never seen angels. Still, as part of the core group activities that I do, I went to see some of the hospitals. I saw the angels there. They wear white coats. We have said, the Prime Minister has said that your existing global system of international relations is inadequate. You talk about gross domestic product. It surely is a gross measurement. Terrible. He's talked about a new template to promote human welfare apart from human growth. And of course, then the health sector, yoga, Ayurveda now is going to rise very, very quickly. So as an Indian, what should you do as a young Indian? Look, have faith and confidence in yourselves. You know, do not give in to cynicism. Go beyond fear, because as we say in Hindi, dar se aage baro, dar ke aage jeet hai. Somebody once asked the Mahatma, Bapu, how do I change the world? The Bapu said, begin with yourself. Be the change that you want to see. One of the African leaders I'm privileged to serve once asked me for advice on how to solve a pressing issue. I said, sir, this is not my area of expertise. He said, nevertheless, Ambassador, tell me, try your best. I said, sir, if I were in your place, I would do this. 3 months later, when I visited his country again, he called me back, big smile. He said, Ambassador, I did what you asked me to. The problem has been solved. I said, sir, I'm very happy that it has. Then he said, Ambassador, I don't like the smirk on your face. Are you God? I said, no, sir, I'm not God. I'm an Indian. That's the next best thing. This is our eternal spirit, ladies and gentlemen. Asam ne jo paravedi, gadiya lagu jesa, udhar shani jana, vasudhaiva kutumbakam. Those who have small minds say, this is yours, this is mine. But for people of India, for the sages of India who have so much wisdom, the world is one family. And what have we proved during this attack? That we are very generous, we are very compassionate, we work for the common good. Our gurdwaras, our temples, our churches, we are producing food, we are giving it to those who need it. You know, every day in India, the Mahatma is born again. This is my tombstone. I will be leaving my body, I don't know when, perhaps in a few years. And I've asked my family that wherever you scatter my ashes, you please have this little stone there for as long as it survives. Deepak Vohra, made in India, 1951 to eternity. Scattered in the dust, silent I remain. When India's bugle calls, I will rise again. Have faith, have confidence. We are privileged to be born in India. It's a lottery of birth, and this is what I always say about India. Ladies and gentlemen, the saffron in your flag represents courage and strength. India's renaissance is now going ahead rapidly. We are privileged to be part of this magnificent renaissance. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your time. I have enjoyed interacting with you. That's my email, that's my mobile number. But through the Jamshedpur Management Association, you can reach me. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that we are not able to answer today. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now I'd like to stop sharing this. So Asmita, if you tell me how I can stop sharing this. How is that? There is the screen. Oh boy. Anyway, I'm there on top. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Okay, sir is back.
Yeah. If you have any questions, Miss Asmita will be delighted to answer them.
I wish so.
Go ahead, young lady. Go ahead. We have 54 participants.
Yes. So please, if you have any questions, you can directly talk to sir.
Absolutely.
So by the time we have a question in the chat box by Dr. Hishmi Ramin Hussain. So he asked,
yes, absolutely,
what we can do to make India diplomatically strong relations with our neighbors like China without compromise.
You know, there has been some trouble on the border with China over the last week or so. They have always violated our essential interests, our fundamental interests. Now I believe they understand the strength of India. What we can do is build on the areas of cooperation without letting our guard down. As they've said, we prepare for peace, but we keep our gunpowder dry. And that's India's new philosophy. If somebody troubles us, we'll hit them so hard. The Chinese have also got this message loud and clear. So India is going to share its prosperity with our neighbors, with the whole world. I mean, 123 countries, we're helping them during the Chinese virus attack. And I believe that it is now time for us to let the whole world know that we are prepared to help, which we are doing. With our neighbors, except that fellow, that lunatic on our west, with everybody else, we have very, very strong relations. In fact, when we helped Nepal in 2015, when the earthquake was there, we mobilized our relief effort in 15 minutes. The Prime Minister of Nepal said, we are blessed to have a neighbor like India. What more can one say? Yep, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir. So the next question is by Mr. Manmohan Singh. What would be your advice as an advisor to PM for revisiting Indian policies and strategies to encourage SMEs and MSMEs so that India does not have to depend on foreign countries for masks and stuff like PPEs, etc.?
You know, that's a very intelligent question, and I don't know how to answer it. We are aware that the backbone of Indian industry, the backbone of our revival will be the micro, small, and medium enterprises. We are aware of this. The government is taking several initiatives. I think the finance minister will announce them in a day or two. See what it's like. Some of us will be happy, some will not be happy. We can't satisfy everybody. But the important thing is that the effort is being made and the awareness is there. And I believe that some of the steps we are taking will be very, very positive. We have shown the world that we are able to deal with the virus. We'll be able to deal with its aftermath also. Have faith, sir. Have trust in us.
Okay. The next question is by Mr. Ankit. So he asks if you can tell him if the policies in India are overruling bureaucracy.
The politicians, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I didn't understand your question.
The politics in India, is it overruling bureaucracy? Yeah.
Let me, you know, that's a very difficult thing. We have this separation of powers in India. You have the executive, you have the judiciary, then people talk of the fourth estate, we have parliament, etc., the fourth estate being the media. Look, India, Sardar Patel described the civil service as the steel frame of India. Sometimes I laugh and say that's because we are so inflexible. But it is the civil service that runs this country. The politicians give us the political direction because they are the people who've been elected. We are not elected, we are appointed, we are selected, and proudly so. And we are really keeping this country going on the direction of the political leadership. Sometimes the leaders are very good as now, sometimes they are not so good. It has happened in the past, it may happen in the future. But as long as institutions like the civil service in India continue to go from strength to strength, no one can deter us from the path of development. Have faith, sir. Trust us. We know what we are doing.
Okay, so next question is by Gurpreet Kaur Nagi. She's asking, is India prepared for the global manufacturing hub? It is now going to become.
Question about, we have a thing called Invest India. It's a government-sponsored agency for investment. Go to their website. If you can talk to some of them, the number of people who are asking us that we want to relocate from China to India. What does India offer, sir? We are giving them China Plus. People went to China initially. Why? Because they gave them cheap labor and they gave them infrastructure. We'll give more than that. We'll give them cheap, qualified, hardworking, honest workers. And of course, we are building the infrastructure at a furious pace. No question about it. They want to come to India. Where else will they go? Which other country offers them the kind of facilities and strength, the manpower, the human resource that India has? One other thing that I would share with you, sir, that after the virus is over, this is my personal assessment. We are bringing back so many of our children from overseas. The Western economies, already they were stuttering, already they were very fragile. They've been badly damaged by the virus. Many of them will want to rebuild their economies through imported human resource because they are aging society. The only country from which they'll be able to get qualified, hardworking, people with high levels of integrity, commitment, dedication, and passion is not China. They don't trust them anymore. It's not some of the other countries. It is from India. They will take them from India. I believe that structured immigration from India will be a big thing in the years to come.
Okay.
Go
Next
ahead.
question is by Mr. Omkar Shinde. What should be our strategy in interacting with external world in the post-COVID new normal?
I believe that there will be no, the world will go back to its bad old ways in many respects. But the world has already seen the power of India's example. I mean, 123 countries asking India for help and India saying yes to all of them. I have my doctors, I have my health personnel in 12 countries. What is the message India is giving? That guys like Chanakya said, we are friends, we stand by you in your sickness, you can depend on us. India has shown itself to be a dependable friend. And of course, the existing international order, so let me tell you that too. The United Nations and that racket called the World Health Organization, they have outlived their shelf life, sir. They are finished. I mean, their expiry date is over. As the Prime Minister said, we need a new international template where we talk about welfare, not about growth. I believe that we are heading towards that. They will fight tooth and nail, those who have permanent membership of the Security Council, this, that, and the other. They don't want to give up their privileges. But a new world order will emerge, and India will be at not just on the high table, sir. And I'm not saying this because I'm Indian. I assess this on the basis of responses from around the world. We'll not just be on the high table, sir. We'll be chairing the high table.
That's great, sir. Next question is by Mr. Rajesh Vyas. How is world going to unite and pay back Chinese for their misdeed of spreading Chinese virus?
The movement has already started, sir. I mean, Mr. Mr. Donald Trump, whether you like him or hate him, this fellow has said he's talking of billions, trillions of dollars. The Germans are talking of $150 billion. The French have started this. The Australians want an independent inquiry. By the way, I would like you to go into the responses of the WHO. All right, when this character who calls himself the Director General, fellow went off to China and said there's no evidence of human transmission because the Chinese told him. Then a few weeks later, the Chinese said there's some evidence. So very faithfully, he parroted there's some evidence. Then the Chinese came back and said there's confirmed evidence. They said there's confirmed evidence. Then the Chinese said, don't worry, we'll deal with it. Then he said, don't worry, we'll deal with it. Then the Chinese said, sorry, it's a pandemic. Then he said, oh, it's a pandemic. I mean, the man is a faithful parrot of the Chinese. He has no self-respect. He should have resigned by now. But all this nonsense will come to an end. The world will come together and say, institutions that were created, sir, after the Second World War. It's been a long, long time, 75 years now. Institutions were created then, at that time. They have no relevance today, sir. I mean, I have nothing in my house that is 75 years old. I'm getting there in a few years, but there's nothing. It's old, we discard it, and it's outlived its shelf life. Everything today comes with an expiry date, best before this, best before this. Unfortunately, in 45, when all these institutions were set up, we didn't mention an expiry date. Whenever the new system comes, there will be something saying best before this. Okay? We'll do it, sir. We'll do it.
So Mr. Deepak Kamath he says he's an eternal optimist just like you. But how do we counter the pessimism in various circles such as politicians and media?
You know, these are, Mr. Kamath, if you speak Hindi, Asmita, do you speak Hindi?
Sir.
Okay. You know, this is what we call, all right, thank you, sir. This is what we call Dukhi Atmas. These guys are perpetual naysayers. Look, when we started Vande Bharat, the largest peacetime evacuation in human history, when we were sitting down and discussing this, there was one point that one of us made. He said, listen, guys, all this is great, but the negative articles of what will go wrong have already been written. Sure enough, he was bang on, he was spot on. Already the fellows who have no idea about what is going on. Oh, but what will happen to the pilots? Look, our pilots and our cabin crew had voluntarily agreed to go into quarantine after bringing these people back from overseas. I mean, everything was meticulously planned, but there are others who will write about it negatively. They are perpetual whiners. They serve their masters overseas because their masters don't want India's self-confidence to survive. मैं आपको एक कहानी बताता हूँ, Asmita. When I was a little kid, my grandfather, I'm talking about the 50s, we are refugees, my family are refugees from Peshawar in Pakistan. My grandfather every morning would dress up and go off to one of the offices, and I'd ask him, Dada, every morning where do you go, dress so smartly with your walking stick? He'd say, son, I go to get some property in Delhi that was promised to us because we left behind our property in Peshawar. And I said, Dada, did you get anything? You've been running around for a year. And then his answer to me was, what, son, this independent India government? Oh, British time was so wonderful because the British had shattered his self-confidence, leading him to believe that everything British was much better than anything Indian. Then came my father's generation, trained by the British, but certainly served in India. Then mine, who turned around and told the British, who the hell do you think you are? We are superior to you in every which way. And our kids, do you think they are inferior to the others in the West in any way? This is India's self-confidence. Latest articles, I see them in New York Times, in BBC, wherever, all of them have been written by Indians to criticize India so that they have some greater credibility. It's not true. There's no way of stopping these perpetual whiners. Sir, to put it very crudely, and I ask for your forgiveness, हमारी एक कहावत है, जब कारवां निकलता है ना, when the caravan moves, the dogs bark. Ignore the dogs, sir. India is marching to its destiny, and we will get there sooner rather than later. We will surprise the whole world, sir.
So the next question is by Swati Sinha. She is from ISWP Jamshedpur. She asks, do you think countries across will have anti-China sentiment post-COVID-19?
It's already started. I mean, the African countries are telling the Chinese, why don't you forgive the debt, write it off? You think the Chinese will? Oh, you have a hope. And they're saying, okay, we will discuss this diplomatically because their entire, what is that called? BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, the CPEC, Economic Corridor, is in the doldrums. When the Pakistanis have to repay the money, the loans of $60 billion, their national debt today is gone sky high. And what is the majority of the investments from China have been in power projects. And this is outdated technology that nobody wants. Coal-fired power plants. Are you joking? Here, India has got 1/3 of its energy mix is renewable energy. By 2025, almost 60% will be renewable energy. We are moving away from fossil fuels. These guys are stuck in a time warp. Of course, the world doesn't like China anymore. I mean, the Director General of the WHO named it the COVID virus. Initially, there was a strong move to call it the Chinese virus. The Chinese turned around and said, look, don't call it Chinese virus because then for a million years, people will say Chinese virus. Well, let the people say what they want. The fact is, it is a Chinese virus. And sir, let me tell you the two pledges that my wife and I have taken. We are both senior citizens. For the rest of our natural lives, sir, we will never, ever buy anything made in China. The second pledge we've taken, that for the rest of our natural lives, we will sponsor the education of a girl child from a weaker section of society, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, backward community, in a remote part of India. We will sponsor her education for the rest of our natural life. India has given so much to us. This is the least we can do.
So the next question is by Mr. Ankit. Will we be able to benefit from this pandemic and be able to move manufacturing in India and move away from services economy?
No question. I mean, manufacturing and services both have to go hand in hand. There was a time when the World Bank used to tell us, you know, United States 90% GDP comes from services, Singapore 100% comes. So we thought manufacturing was not necessary. We've been misled. I mean, we've listened to all these cats over the years. At the time they told us about the population explosion in India. Now, when you see the figures next year, you will be amazed at how well the people of India have been able to control the population. You know, the total fertility replacement rate, just to give you an example, is 2.1. If a woman has 2.1 children during her reproductive years, then the population of a country is stable. So my wife and I, when we die, we have 2 children, they die, each of their 2 children, etc. 2.1, because the 0.1 is for pandemics and wars, etc. You'll be surprised that what we are, the figures we are seeing, the preliminary figures in urban India and your state, West Bengal, Kerala, etc. The urban Indian woman has 1.7. Replacement rate is 2.1. Rural Indian woman has 2.2, and we are now, the average is about 2.1 something. By next year, we'll hit 2.1, which means that there will be no net increase in the population. Of course, it will rise because people who are very little now will come up and you'll have lots more, but it's women's empowerment, it's education, it's growing economic opportunity. We've surprised the world, we'll do it again. Make in India, of course. I was made in India, sir, in 1951. And today, Make in India is catching up around the world. So many companies are in touch with Invest India. I'm aware, I'm in contact with some of them saying, give us whatever we've got from China. And we've said, we'll give you China plus, we'll give you more. They'll come, sir. They'll come very quickly. 2021 will be for India the year of manufacturing, making in India. Just keep the faith, sir.
Next question is by Nirbhay Singh Salar. He asks, current lockdown has brought unexpected positive changes in environment, like air, water, in just 3 weeks. What if world starts observing earthquake or Bhuwakash for annual rejuvenation of environment? What are your views on this?
If the world does it, should we have a virus lockdown every year? Is that what you're saying? No, listen. There's no question that the environment has improved. There's no question. I'm told that now in a place like Haridwar, you can drink the water of the Ganges. In Jamshedpur, I don't know, your air quality, has it improved, Asmita? The quality of the air, has it gone up? Has it become better? Well, certainly
yes,
in Delhi, after so many years, I'm able to see a really turquoise blue sky. I'm able to count the stars at night. I see the bright sunshine. I hear birds chirping in the morning, which I had missed all these years. I see crows flying around. I mean, the environment is on a roll, and we have to thank the Chinese virus for that. You know, one of the best things I saw was a sign. There was a map of the Earth, the globe, saying planet Earth closed for repairs. And when we reopen, we will be a better place. Our country certainly will. The discipline of our people, the respect we have, our ability to abide by regulations. Look, one is the political interaction where they say this is wrong, that is wrong. The second is what the citizens do. Already we've said from 1600 hours today, a selected number of trains will reopen, and you can only book the tickets online. What a phenomenal thing. All these touts, agents, etc. will go away. We'll do it online. We have 330 million online shoppers in India. 330 million, more than the population of the United States. Why do you think Mr. Bezos, whatever his name is, comes here and talks in glowing terms about the Indian market? They know what it is. We'll do it, sir. Just keep the faith. I may not be around. You know, I'm getting on in years, but India will be here forever. You will be here for a longer time. Take India forward, sir.
The next question is by Ms. Apurva Sinha. She asked, what are your views on effect of lockdown on state activate entrepreneurship and startups?
You know, startups are going to suffer. We used to boast that we had the world's second largest startup ecosystem, but it's going to come right back. I mean, a startup is a startup is a startup. We'll have new startups. I believe they'll focus on the health sector. I believe they'll focus on tourism, because we are social animals. We like to interact with each other. It's nice to be able to see me via webcam, but sometimes when I go to the US, I go because I can see my kids by webcam. Both of our children live there, my 2 granddaughters, but I like to go and hug them, hold them in my arms. So that we are very, very, very social animals. Tourism will rebound, health will rebound, hospitality sector, ditto, is going to rebound, manufacturing will rebound, and it's much easier to establish a startup than it is to set up a huge manufacturing enterprise. Environmental companies, companies that are dedicated to preserving the environment, they'll be the new in thing in fashion. The meat industry will suffer. 1 out of 5 Americans is already vegan, which is an extreme form of vegetarianism. They don't even take vegetables. So the meat industry will suffer, horticulture will thrive. Our exports in horticulture will go up. This is what I anticipate.
Okay. Next question is by Mr. Kanu. He asks, how can we turn this COVID-19 threat to opportunity?
We are doing it already. India has the expertise. I gave you, there was a session on the uncertain years, India, from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, practically through the 90s. We were able to convert every crisis into an opportunity. We had the war in 62, which we lost to the Chinese. But then we realized we had to strengthen our defense. Idealism is one thing, but this is a world rooted in realism. 65, we had another war till the last moment. The outcome wasn't balanced, but we held our own. We didn't sort of allow them to get away with what they wanted to do. 71, we showed them our strength. 99, we showed them our strength. Even in 67, the Chinese had tried to fool around with us again in Sikkim. We clobbered the hell out of them. Look, we are no pushovers. So every crisis, food grain production, wasn't it a crisis? Look, I just told you that I slept hungry through all of 1966 on Mondays. Now the second largest producer of food grains in the world. That crisis became an opportunity. Our defeat in the war became an opportunity to strengthen our defenses. We realized that we were not moving ahead without education. That became an opportunity for us. So every crisis that India has faced, we've managed to convert it into something for our benefit. Your space program, I mean, our first satellite was launched by the French. I think it was in Aryabhatta. It was in the 70s from the French airspace in French Guyana in South Africa. Now we launch French satellites. The wheel has come full circle. The Russians, the Soviets taught us what we know about oil exploration. They were very, very good in imparting technology, transferring it. And then we have stakes in the Sakhalin oil field in Russia. It's payback time. Every crisis we convert into an opportunity. That is our strength, sir. We have the world's best technology. It's called Jugaad.
Jugaad is the word invented by Indians.
Yes, ma'am. We are the best.
Yeah. So next question is by Ms. Preksha.
Can you see me? Give me a moment. Can you see me?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'll tell you something that is very, very funny. What had happened was that I was posted in Vietnam. This is in the late 70s. And because Vietnam had been a French colony and then also American occupation, so the power outlets, the sockets in the wall were either 110, 220. So my wife and I, a young couple, we got a new refrigerator and we didn't want it to blow up by plugging it into the wrong socket. So I asked my driver, a good Sardaji, Bua Singh, I remember his name. I said, Bua, get a voltmeter. Let's find out which one. Because they're all old houses. We'll find out which is 110, 220. And he looks at me and he says, sir, forget the voltmeter. Sticks 2 fingers into his mouth, goes, brrr, sir, this is 110. And he goes, boom, sir, this is 220. And that is Jugaad. I mean, amazing, and only a Khalsa can do it. You know, we are an amazing people. Every community in India, and you Bengalis are supreme intellectuals. Look at the Malayalis, what they are doing. The Sindhis in business. Every community develops a certain reputation and aura about it. What I say about us Punjabis, that we really have no culture except agriculture. And then people ask me, you know, give us an example of Jugaad. And the example I give apart from this is this friend of mine sitting in Punjab. Hot summer's day, Sunday, everything closed. There he's sitting in a shirt wearing a beautiful tie. We went and asked him, dear friend, what is this? He says, Saab, kabhi kabhi koi bin bulaye aa jata hai. So I'm wearing tie and shirt, all right. But below that, you've got your underwear. Why? Are kabhi kabhi koi nahi bhi aata. So I mean, we are prepared for everything. Only the Punjabis can think of this.
Definitely. So the next question is Ms. Preksha. She asks, what are your views on the current situation of migrant workers, which we are so dependent on in different states, and construction is affected, which contributes to 6%.
I know that, ma'am.
Yeah.
I mean, let me tell you one thing first, ma'am. That based on the inputs that we are receiving, as I'm getting as a member of the core group from across India, I believe that we have more experts than coronavirus patients. What is happening now, ma'am? The migrant workers, we had no idea how many had come in from Bihar and Uttar Pradesh to work in India. We have Aadhaar cards for everybody. God forbid, good Lord, if we did not have Aadhaar cards, we would have no idea. Now, these people, we didn't know what the numbers were. It was an unintended consequence of the lockdown that they wanted to go back because on social media, there were all kinds of stories that you're going to starve, this will happen, that will happen. They went back. Now we have an idea about the numbers. We didn't know how to deal with it. All the guys who are criticizing us, my only question to them is, happy birthday, ladies and gentlemen. Why didn't you open your mouth when we decided? Why didn't you tell us at that? We didn't anticipate it, but be happy that not one of these migrant workers has starved to death. And if anybody tells you he or she has, that is not true, ma'am. If there is a crisis, it's in our private television station newsrooms, not in the government itself. We know what we are doing. Even as we speak, the Prime Minister has an extended video conference with state chief ministers to announce the easing of the lockdown measures. We are aware, we are taking into account national sentiment. Have faith, ma'am. We are the best. The others are the rest.
Next question is by Mr. Rajesh Vyas. He's asking who is going to bell the cat that is permanently closing the wet market at Wuhan or Wuhan Virology Lab.
Well, there are, one theory is that it came out of the lab. The second theory is that it came from the wet market. First, the Chinese say there are no wet markets. The WHO says there are no wet markets in China. Then the Chinese say, oh, forgot, we do have a wet market. So then WHO, oh, we forgot they do have a wet market. Then suddenly the Chinese doubled the figures of coronavirus patients in Wuhan. You can Google that. WHO say, oh, sorry, they've doubled it because their doctors had forgotten how to count. What kind of nonsense is this? Let me just tell you that the wet markets or whatever, because they have these strange eating habits of pangolins and bats and lizards and snakes and whatever, that has to change. And I hope it does. But the world can show China, and I believe it's already happening, that an independent inquiry, which is being demanded by so many countries, will establish with credibility the source of the virus. And then we see what will happen. Remember one thing though, you have to live with this virus for the rest of mankind's existence. A virus never dies. It just recedes from its prominence in our life. You know, the Ebola virus is not dead, but we had vaccine. We give children BCG or whatever they have. Smallpox, we've destroyed measles through the vaccines. But the virus remains. Even the bubonic plague virus of 500 years ago is running around in the jungle somewhere. It doesn't infect human beings. Very simply put, it's like this. Look, I have a conflict with somebody. There are two ways. Either I destroy that fellow or I strengthen myself so much that he can't hurt me. Now, since I can't destroy the virus, I build my immunity so the virus can't hurt me. That's why we're looking for a vaccine. That's very simply put, that's the struggle right now. Come out with a virus. Till we come out with the vaccine, social distancing, which we are seeing in India, personal distancing, personal hygiene, this is going to be our most powerful weapon. Once the vaccine comes, no issue. But the virus will never die.
Okay. So next question is by Daljit Kaur. He or she asks, if we people are not sincere about environment, then can we think to put lockdown 1 day per month statewise to let the atmosphere breathe?
Come again, come again. Can we put the lockdown what?
Can we put down the put the lockdown 1 day per month statewise to let the atmosphere breathe?
You know, Miss Kaur, that's a brilliant idea. Only a Punjabi can think of that, right? I would love to answer you in Punjabi. Of course, a bada badhiya idea hai, you know, great idea to do this kind of thing 1 day every week. But even if we, you know, the environment will recover. But even if we don't do that, I think 1 day in a month or in a week or whenever, you and I should just stand or stay wherever we are and thank God that we are Indians and thank Him that we have these dedicated warriors whose major concern is the safety and security of India, whether our health or our borders. Spare a thought, ma'am, for these corona warriors. I'm a soldier. Spare a thought for my boys on the border. You sleep comfortably at night because we are awake. This is India, our spirit of sacrifice.
Mr. Rajesh Modi asks, so what is your message for the young generation of India?
Have faith in yourselves. Have confidence. I mean, you have shown already in the surveys, the two surveys that have been carried out by EDELMAN and by Deloitte. You have said you want to give back to society. You want to give back to your nation. Make an impact on society. Do it. Beta Hindi mein, you know, your Prime Minister making his speech the last time he spoke, 6 times he folded his hands. Where is the ego? Look at the humility of this man. He pleads with the people of India, and I plead with you, sir. If you are a young person, I plead with you, and I say this in Hindi. हम लाए हैं तूफान से किश्ती निकाल के, इस देश को रखना मेरे बच्चों संभाल के. I have only one country, sir. India. I don't have any other. Preserve it, sir.
Wow. That's awesome, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the audience?
Well, all those who participated, thank you ever so much. Carry forward this mood of optimism. Carry forward your self-confidence. Don't let anybody destroy your confidence. They'll try their best. The world, for 200 years, they ruled, sir, by shattering your self-confidence. Today, it's back. We will not allow it to be shattered. अरे दिखा देंगे दुनिया को. जो अब हमें तंग करना चाहेगा, उसका जन्म होने नहीं देंगे, मिटा देंगे उसको, sir. Take it from me, sir. You can't fool around with India now. We're just too strong, just too powerful. And if you travel anywhere, go anywhere, don't be critical of India. And certainly, naraz ho, be angry. Nirash mat ho. Don't be pessimistic. Be angry if you see injustice. Never be pessimistic. There's too much of good floating around in our country. Open your eyes and ears to see it, sir, to hear it.
It's a wonderful message, sir. Naraz ho, but nirash mat ho. Really wonderful.
Right.
So I think we've come to the end of the session now. I would like to express profound gratitude to Ambassador Dr. Deepak Vohra on behalf of Jamshedpur Management Association for a brilliant, inspiring oversight. Thank you very much, sir. It was indeed a treat to listen to you, and we're definitely feeling very proud to be Indians. I would also like to thank all our audience for joining in and cooperating throughout the session. The session has been recorded and will be made available on JMA YouTube channel. Also, I've put my mail ID so you can drop me a mail. And for our upcoming events, please follow us on social media. Thank you. See you in the next event.
And
have a good day.
Before you hang up, just the last thing. I go back to the first Kargil war of 1948 when the Pakistanis had occupied it. My father fought then, we liberated it, and he gave me a message. He said, so many people in India said, you can't take tanks. We took tanks for the first time in human history to 12,000 feet. These were World War II tanks, Stuart Mark II. My father was an engineer officer. They told him, you can't take tanks to that height. And he gave a response that has been my guiding philosophy. He said, well, gentlemen, you are saying that there is no way. I, as an Indian soldier, promise you, we'll either find a way or we'll make a way. That is my message to the young people who are in this seminar. Find a way, make a way. We are Indians. We can do it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a lovely day.
You too. Thank you.